Hey everybody, quick unboxing and install video. What I've got here is a retro style fuel lid for the Miata. And what this is this is going to go into your into the fuel filler hole, and then this is on top of it. And gives you kind of a retro look. This is a pretty silly purchase. Complete bling. There's no point to it, sort of, but looks. So, but you know, hey, every once in a while you gotta do it. So the kit comes with no instructions. This is from eBay. And it's kind of a knockoff of an existing thing that's like a Garage Star one or something like that. And I think that one is like 250 bucks. Well, this one's 100 bucks off of eBay, and maybe 110, something like that. And so we'll see how it goes. A couple little scratches on there, but not a big deal. And then so we're going to try taking this apart and seeing how it looks. First impressions are pretty good. This is a solid piece. It's pretty heavy, actually. I mean, this whole box weighs a couple pounds. So this is not thin metal. There's no way this is bending, you know. So this is pretty solid steel here, and this cap is actually pretty heavy, so we'll see if the little pull will actually open it correctly. So we'll see what happens there. All right, got that out. I was using a Phillips head initially, but it was starting to strip a little bit, so I sprayed some penetrating fluid on there, and these are actually bolts, and you can use an 8mm on them, so that's a little safer than trying to use the Phillips head. So this is what it looks like when it comes out, and we've got the little hinge here. So now we're going to try to test fit this guy, and should go like this. And let's put it in like this so it goes around the little flipper thing. I hope I don't have to take that out. I think with some jiggling I can get this in. Let's see what we need to do. Alright, here it is. So what you have to do to install it is the hinge needs to go on first. When everything's out, the hinge needs to go on first, because you don't have enough room to get back there with much of anything to be able to screw that in. So that goes in first, but that's not a big deal because this top part goes on last. So then that goes on, and then what you want to do is take out this bolt right there, a nut right there where the release is, and that's a 14, and then you can take it out from underneath the car. There we go. Okay. So you get it underneath the trunk and come in from the trunk, and you can wiggle that whole assembly out. Don't take the actual cable out of that little bracket. That whole bracket comes loose once you get the nut out. So just take that whole thing out. Then this will slide in, and you can put your 4 screws back. You can put your cap back on, and then you can bolt down this. Now, it's got this weird spring thing. I'm pretty sure this is how it's supposed to go, because that's the only way I can see how it would work. It's really just a piece of bent metal, and they're relying on that to lift this rather heavy cast metal piece here. I don't know if this is aluminum or maybe aluminum, because it doesn't seem quite heavy enough to be steel. But the that little spring is supposed to pop it up, and it barely works at all. I tried bending it, and I think it basically doesn't work now. So it worked like a couple pulls, and then it stopped working. So there's that. So this little bolt goes in there. It goes through the thing, and then it attaches to the there's a little tapped hole in there for that, and then it attaches in there. So this comes down. The spring basically sits on top of the gas cap, and then it locks into place like that. So, I mean, from a distance it looks reasonable. It does not fit perfectly. So if that's a concern for you, then this is probably not your thing. I might be able to beat this into place, but then again, I might also damage it if I tried that. So it would probably have to be refinished if I beat on this somehow with a hammer. I don't know how to bend this. It's pretty thick material, so it's not just going to bend by hand. You're going to have to exert some force. So we've got that kind of gap, and there's a similar gap on the other side. Now the front and back are okay. So this is what it's like when it's on there. I'm afraid this is going to rattle a lot going down. I mean, it's secure, it doesn't pop open or anything, but I'm afraid it's going to rattle around a lot when you're going down the road. So now, this is what it looks like when you're trying to pop it. So I'll reach in there. That was it. You see it barely move. And now, let's see if it opens. Hey! It opened that time. Most of the time, it does not open. It basically, you would have to hold the release cap at the same time as pulling on this to make it open. Or you would have to open the trunk and do the manual way, you know, with the situation where, as if your release pull broke or something, the cable broke or whatever. So you can release it that way. But, so if I do this, again, let's see if I can get twice in a row. Oh, it looks like it. All right. I got it just right. So if you're very gentle with it, it will work. So I'll have to drive it to see what it does in terms of rattles and all that, but that's what it looks like. I mean, definitely looks cool from a distance. You know. So we shall see. So I guess it's all together. I wonder if there's some way to fix the hinge itself at the hinge point. It looked like just a kind of bent over, some metal just bent around, you know, kind of a little sort of axle rod or something like that. And that's what it was doing. That's how the hinge works. So that's part of the reason for the slop in here. So it's not like super, it's not designed any kind of exacting tolerances, let's put it that way. So yeah, it's about a third the cost of the real one that you can get. So it's probably about a third of how good it is. So in this case, it does seem like you get what you pay for. So we'll see how it goes. If it rattles, that may be a deal breaker. If there was a stronger spring, that might hold it on here better and it won't rattle. So maybe if I just fix that one thing, it'll kill two birds with one stone. So anyway, that's what it looks like. All right, so I modded this just a little bit. I was thinking about different ways of doing this, like putting a spring, like a real spring in here between this thing, like drilling out another hole right where that lip is right there, and then putting a real spring. And that, I may still do that, but what I did was I replaced the very thin piece of metal that they were using as a spring, which was basically about maybe 50% thicker than a Coke can, which is nothing, with this metal, which is about, I want to say 26 gauge, something like that, maybe 24, I don't know. Anyway, and it's steel, so it's mild steel, that's why it's all rusty. I'll paint this so that it matches. But now it opens and closes 100%. And I also put a washer down right there on that bolt, the hinge bolt. Try to get some light in here. And just because it was the bolt's too long for the hole, so I put in a lock washer right there, and that made the bolt fit a lot better. And also it's a lock washer, so it's locked in there and it shouldn't jiggle loose. Oh, there we go. All right, I may still play with the hinge because, as you can see, this jiggles around a lot, but when it's in place, it's reasonably solid. It still jiggles a little bit. So before I go messing with the hinge and drilling that out and re-welding it or something like that, I'm just going to drive it and see if I can get it to rattle. If it rattles, then I'll fix the hinge with just re-weld it. And if not, I'll just leave it like this. So we'll see. All right, so jumping ahead a couple months to the future, I've had it on the car, been driving around with it, and the spring and the lock washer work perfectly. We have no rattles, so I'm satisfied. The panel gap is still there. I haven't made any changes to that, but really you can't see it. You have to be below and looking up really to even see the gap, and you have to be really close to the car for it to really be apparent. So I don't really have a problem with that. The pull works every time when you want to open it up, so that's really all that matters. And you know, I think it gives it a nice little kind of retro bling. So I'm completely satisfied. All right, so hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please take a second to drop a like on it, and if you could, subscribe, and you'll be able to be updated on all the new videos that come out. I post regularly, about once a week at least, and I have a lot of other Miata content on the channel. So it's everything from mods like this, little miscellaneous small things, to larger things like full tuning guides, and also your general maintenance how-tos. So thanks a lot again, and I'll see you in the next one.